I went to graduate school in St. Louis to get a degree in speech pathology, and I was going to go back to Eretz Yisrael. Now, in 1973, I was graduating, and I have another Rebbe, Reb Moshe Feinstein, Zichron Tzadik Livracha, who did give me smicha. So I called him up, and I told him that I was negotiating at the University of Tel Aviv for a position as a speech pathologist, and I wanted a bracha. So he said to me, "No, I'm not giving you a bracha." I said, "Rebbe," because he knew me even as a child. So he said to me, Israel doesn't need American speech pathologists and doesn't need American rabbis. You have to stay in chinuch. Anyway, make a long story short, there was an ad in the paper that Hamilton was looking for a principal. So I called up.
It's a beautiful day at the HHA, and he would do things, and the kids smiled. They felt so special. They felt touched, like, oh wow, he's paying attention to me. Wow.
First day, going up to the front door. Boker Tov, Mrs. Herskovitz. Oh my God, and my son, broke out into this grin. You can't help but break out into a grin.
It's probably like the cliche answer, but it started with him greeting everyone every single day, or messing up your hair, or bopping you on the head.
Good morning, beautiful. It's a beautiful day.
Singing and smiling and yelling at everyone, saying, good smile, beautiful. Like, what do you have to frown about? It's such a beautiful day.
Even when it wasn't a beautiful day, it could be raining, it could be snowing, it didn't matter. He was there, he was standing there, he was always right in the thick of it.
The amazing thing is, he may have said it tens of thousands of times, but each and every one of those times, he meant it.
It's a life lesson for all of us. It doesn't matter what reality says. It doesn't matter what the weather says. If you decide it's a beautiful day and you share that with other people, you're more likely to make their day a beautiful day. And by doing so, you're more likely to make your own day a beautiful day. That's unique.
He was always in a good mood. And when someone else is like in a good mood, it's hard to stay mad if you're mad about something. So it's easier to just join them.
Like him in the hall is always positive. Always really happy, singing, of course. Hey, beautiful, all the time.
And I jumped into the opportunity, like one jumps into the deep water, totally confident that I would succeed because the people really wanted it. And what I found was an enormous reception of warmth. And then the job was to set my own tone in the academy. My own tone would be that every kid is number one. I'm not a judgmental person by nature. It's God's, that's his job to judge men. For me, it was just to teach, but it was with love.
And he had a unique way of punishing the kids. He used to pick them up and say, "This is my baby." And he'd go to the other rooms and he'd say, "Hello guys, this is my baby. Best kid ever."
He believed that there was good and potential in every child.
So if you had a bad day and the students were not very great that day, he'd always say, "Oh, they're great students. You just have to find the good and bring it out. That's your job."
He made everything approachable, and he made everything relatable, and he made everything fun.
He tried positive influence. It was always in a positive way.
I remember Rabbi Eisenstein always smiling, always had a twinkle in his eye.
Throughout elementary school, Rabbi was always encouraging me to grow in my Yiddishkeit, to love it, to just want to embrace it and make it my own.
There was a sense of infinite possibility, but acceptance of limitations. It's a peculiar combination.
Just a good guy, and you really wanted to please him, and you wanted to be like him in a lot of ways, and look up to this person as well who is, honestly larger than life.
You wanted him to think no matter what, that you were trying to be the best person that you could be, because that's what he wanted you to be.
He was always there for any family event. There was a mazel tov. There was always his presence connected to our family. He affected our life in a very deep, meaningful way.
Well, of course, I remember year after year at Purim with him balancing tables on his chin, or brooms, or chairs. I remember going to shul on Shabbat and seeing Rabbi, and my brothers would always go sit with Rabbi in shul. It was the highlight of Shabbat for them.
It was like a Pied Piper.
I remember the Leg BaOmer picnic, just the excitement that was generated leading up to it, and how we even managed to make it feel exciting when it was raining out and we weren't able to go on the Leg BaOmer picnic, but he still managed to make the day feel so special.
He got such pleasure from taking us for Tashlich every year and from getting to be in a sukkah with us.
For Purim, there'd always be the Purim parade, and he'd be leading the whole school year after year and balancing a bench on his nose every year.
He had the loudest voice, so whenever we'd do benching, you just hear him and you'd always want to get above his voice, but you never really could.
We were privileged to be one of the final classes in which Rabbi Eisenstein joined in the annual grade 8 trip to Hershey, Pennsylvania.
And I remember especially that he loved eating fluffernutter and peanut butter on bread. That was his favorite breakfast snack. So we all went to the grocery store together, and none of us had ever had that before, and he convinced us all to try it, and it's delicious.
I think he genuinely cared about every single person.
We would have the moments where we could just sit and share. And he was a great listener. He used to say, God gave you 2 ears, one for it to go in and one for it to go out. But with him, I knew that wasn't true, because 6 months later, I could say something and say, oh, isn't that the place where you did this? And he remembered.
When he saw you, the inner you, your neshama. And because he spoke to you, your essence, people felt it.
Here's a man doesn't judge you. Here's a man that likes you for what you are, big, tall, whatever, religious, non-religious. Every person, Jewish, non-Jewish, it didn't matter. He loved everybody.
Even when he wasn't one of his well days, he would still be there for you. He would still tell you to put on a smile on your face.
He saw the good in every student, and he saw the beauty in every person. And I think that's a powerful thing for educators to learn, to focus on what's good and to find what's good in each person.
I learned more from Rabbi Eisenstein than probably anyone but my dad in my whole life.
He had Divrei Torah constantly at his fingertips. For every twist and turn, he had some kind of a Dvar Torah that suited the occasion.
Always made you feel like you're his son, you're the only person that mattered to him in the world.
When you see Rabbi Eisenstein, I think everyone felt instant family.
What he did was he took the time to get to know everybody individually and just make you feel like you are special and that you're important and that you matter.
When he talked to you, you just felt like you were the only person in the world.
I came to feel that I was the main one that he lived his life for. That's the impression he managed to give me.
You know, you've always thought that you were the most special person to him, but everyone else thought that too. As they came to Shiva, you could hear from them, oh, you know, I was the apple of his eye, or I was a special student this, or, you know, he made this special thing for me, or he wrote me this special letter, or he helped me with this special thing, or I have a story with him about this. And he made everybody feel like, oh, he had a special connection with them and they were really it.
I always viewed him as kind of my third grandfather, and he really was that kind of patriarchal figure to me, and I looked up to him in a whole lot of different ways. And what I found that was kind of an adult moment for me, if you can call it that, is realizing that while I felt that way about the man, he had so much love in his heart that there were hundreds of people in the room that felt exactly the same way.
At one point, I didn't even realize that that's how he treated everybody. I thought I was special, you know, but I mean, I was. But he had a way of making everybody feel that way.
The reason that everyone felt special is because everyone truly was special to him.
all the kids at Shul knew that at the end of Shabbat, Rabbi Eisenstein would just take everybody home. And I felt I was missing out on something because I lived right next door to Rabbi Eisenstein and it's right across from the Shul. So one Saturday night, I piled in to the car too. So Rabbi Eisenstein turns around and he said, "Donnie, do you want to lift home?" I said, "Yes." And I was expecting him just to back up a foot and let me out. But that's not what happens. He took every single child home first. And I was the last stop. And about an hour and a half after Shabbat ended, I ended up coming home. But the truth is that I cherished that experience because after an entire day, for all these kids, it ended on a high because they were with Rabbi Eisenstein. And I was able to have that experience at least once.
I used to go in his mitzvah mobile, and I said to him many years later, when I was already a parent, I said, now I know why you call it a mitzvah mobile, because you knew if parents had to come out on a Saturday night to pick up their kids, after Shabbos was over, nobody would be going to shul for Mincha and Maariv, because we used to always go to shul and hang out. And he said, you got it.
When my husband's mother was dying, my husband would be staying at Sunnybrook in Toronto over Shabbat. And Motzei Shabbat, Rabbi Eisenstein would show up at my doorstep and say, let's go. I said, where are we going? I'm gonna give you a ride to Toronto to the hospital. You need to be with your husband. I said, what do you mean you're giving me a ride to Toronto? He said, it's on the way. I'm already going that way. He wasn't going that way. He just gave me a ride, went in, visited with my husband, and then left and drove back home.
He would rent a car, but not for himself so that he could do things. Why would he rent a car? He would rent a car because he would love to drive my kids to school in the morning. My kids could walk to school. It's not like their schools were miles away, but it was his unique pleasure every morning to get up and to give them rides. And then when he would get back to Hamilton, he would send us a letter. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to drive your children to school every morning. It was my greatest joy.
I never remember that car leaving the shul and anybody being left behind. So over the years, I started to believe that was like a magic car, that it could hold as many people as needed transport. There's a story of somebody so purely wants to do a mitzvah. It's like Hashem is forced to permit the mitzvah to be done. And so that's what I thought about that car, that he so wished to accommodate every single kid, that the car had to grow in size because he couldn't be denied the mitzvah.
There are people who influence us by the books they write. There are people who influence us by the sermons they give. There are people who influence us by giving money and building things. Rabbi Eisenstein was the man who influenced us by being who he was.
I remember there was no question that when Rabbi Eisenstein was speaking to you, he was actually speaking to you. You, Josh, grade 2, I know who you are, I know your family, and I'm talking to you. How is it possible that everybody sitting in this room and everybody watching this and everybody who would be asked to say similar things about Rabbi Eisenstein would probably say almost the same thing, that I always felt that when he was speaking to me, he was really speaking to me and he knew who I was.
He commanded the respect of everyone as a mashgiach. He was the best mashgiach anybody could have because he really cared.
Everyone felt his authenticity, his truth, his real being.
When I was expecting my third baby, I was teaching at the school. I was there full days and feeling really not very well. And he knew that. And so he just quietly came up to me one day and said, I don't want you to go outside anymore for yard duty. I said, no, I have to go out and do my yard duty. He said, no, you're staying inside now for the rest of the year, and I'm going outside for yard duty. And that was the end of the discussion.
The doorbell rang, and I was like, I can't believe it. The principal of the school has just come to our house to bring us mishloach manot. Why us?
Out of the blue, he started calling us every Yontiv. He'd call us at Purim, at Pesach, And it was like having a celebrity call you. We were just so thrilled and honored.
He was selfless. He was one of those type of guys that just was there for everybody else.
He didn't care if you belonged to the shul, if you were rich, if you were poor. If you needed help, he was there.
He pulled me out of class so many times to help teach me how to daven and to lead the services. Something which I do today, and it's only because he sat with me and held my hand and walked me through it word by word, making sure that I did it right and will do it again. But he always did it with a smile.
He would do for people like nobody else would do.
I know many times he would often open his home to strangers who came in, often people who would collect for various charity organizations that no one really knew where they came from. Rabbi Eisenstein always helped them out, gave them a place to stay, and indeed, as legend has it, he would go to sleep on the floor and allow the people to have a room to sleep on a bed.
Kol hakavod to his family, because you have to be special to share a husband and a father with an entire school and community.
We always had guests coming in and out of the house, but it always felt like our family time was very special. Pesach, we would have one Seder with just our family, another Seder with guests. Everything was always done with a sense of like, it's great to be able to help other people, and you know, you're a part of this, you're a part of everything that I do.
When we heard about Rabbi Eisenstein's passing, I think a sense of disbelief ran through the hearts of so many different people. It was hard for us to envision a world without Rabbi Eisenstein, and it still is. And when I struggle with that new reality, my solace is the fact that he became so much part of us, that he lives on in so many different ways in countless people's lives.
So I got engaged last June in 2014, and shortly after, Rabbi sent a letter to me. Mazel tov to you on your engagement. I'm very happy for you. I'm sure that your chatan must be sweet and special like yourself. I can't imagine you choosing anyone who is not sweet and special.
Just a couple months before Rabbi Eisenstein died, he sent me a beautiful email wishing me Mazel Tov on the birth of our daughter, which also just speaks to who he was as a person. The fact that he was writing emails to former students while he was sick and in his last days is just, it just speaks volumes.
Shortly after Rabbi Eisenstein passed away, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Rabbi Eisenstein. He wished me a Mazel Tov on my bar mitzvah. I felt so special that the last letter that he wrote to anybody was probably my letter.
One day a student approached me after class was over and walked up to me and said, Rabbi, can I ask you a personal question? Did you cry at Rabbi Eisenstein's funeral? And I looked at the student and said, yeah, I cried a lot. And I'm still crying. So the student looked at me and said, can I tell you something? My parents have never cried as much, even at their own parents' funeral, as much as they cried at Rabbi Eisenstein's funeral. And that nearly made me break down.
I really, really do miss him. He was amazing.
All he did was give. And I don't know if I've ever met anybody as altruistic as he was.
He was missing the instinct to put self above others. If you miss that gene, you end up being Rabbi Eisenstein. I just don't know anybody else like it.
And then he passed away, and I just never had the chance to say goodbye to my friend. It was just... Anyway, he was a good man. And I miss him.
In Judaism, you have a concept of a makor habracha, which means the source of blessing. And for us, Shabbat is a makor habracha, that the whole week revolves around Shabbat, and we get our sustenance. It's our wellspring that overflows into the other 6 days. There's certain people that you meet that are a makor habracha, a wellspring of joy. When I think about Rabbi Eisenstein, I think about a person that was able to transform a community through the power of spirits and bring so much bracha in so many different ways.
He was such a great man, and his legacy will live on in this community forever. I don't doubt that for a second.
Even though he's not even here anymore, I guarantee you that for many generations to come, he will have touched others, because those that he touched will remember those lessons. They will try to give it over to their children, their grandchildren, and then they will give it over to theirs. I can only hope to accomplish to the degree that he did, a tenth of it. That's how special he was.
For anyone who walks down the halls of the HHA, his presence, his voice, his love is palpable. You can feel it, you can touch it, you can hear it.
The spirit of Rabbi Eisenstein lives on in the teachers.
I really think that Rabbi Eisenstein left the HHA in great hands.
Unfortunately, I don't have that much opportunity to get back home to Hamilton, but I do visit from time to time. And when I visit, I have the opportunity to go and meet some of the people who today are the teachers and leaders of the Hamilton Hebrew Academy. And one thing that I'm struck by is that somehow Rabbi Green has managed to find people who, like Rabbi Eisenstein once upon a time, are unfailingly positive. And I'm sure the atmosphere that they generate for the children of the Hamilton Hebrew Academy today is as positive and as strong and as exciting as the atmosphere, as the environment that I and my generation were privileged to benefit from.
What's the core of all this? What's the main thing? The main goal was every kid should be proud that he's Jewish.
What Rabbi Eisenstein has taught me and many others is that it will always be and continue to be a beautiful day at the HHA.